Hey, tolerators, it is officially our summer break for 2025, and I just wanted to let you know that the episode you're about to hear is either Patreon exclusive content I'm making public, an episode I thought it would be fun to revisit from past years, or a still comfy movie review with Julia Washington. I hope you have a great summer with lots of great memories. I hope you keep smiling instead of tolerating. And I will see you in the fall with all new episodes of To All the Men I've Tolerated Before. Tolerators. This is To All the Men I've Tolerated Before with Natalie, the show where my guests and I chat about not just the perils of the patriarchy, but also the pitfalls of dating in general. Today's guest is voice actress Maria, oh my gosh, now I'm stuttering. Maria Pendolino, and she has been so kind to delve into her experiences with online dating and tracking 97 first dates. I wonder if most people actually tally how many first dates they've been on and like if people know their number, because I know we keep like bedroom partner numbers, or at least like TV told us we should, and then have fights with people about it.
Yeah, I think people, when I tell them that I went on 97 first dates, I feel like people react like, oh my God, that is so many. But actually, I think if everyone kept a tally, especially in the way that we're dating today,
Yeah.
where, you know, with the apps, you're able to try on a lot of different people like really, really quickly. I bet that my number is actually not that outrageous. But I always remind people that the dates took place over 13 years. So it wasn't like 97 first dates and like a hot 6 months in New York, baby, you know?
Well, and then people like do that cute thing where they're like, I'm going to do a year of yes, and I'll never say no to any opportunity that presents itself to me. And I bet you those people could have gone on like 365 dates if someone asked you on a date every day.
If you're in the love section of like Eat, Pray, Love, and you're just like going for it, like 100%.
I did not read Eat, Pray, Love, and it's probably because it came out when I was like in my defiant age, and I was like, I don't pray. This book has nothing to do with me.
I remember reading it and liking it, but also just like, I don't know, I was in like my mid-20s, I think, when it came out. And the one thing that I had like the most problem with is that this woman had enough money to like abandon her life for these 3 different like journeys. And like, yes, she was like a freelance writer, and like this was obviously well before like the digital nomad culture took off, where you could like do your job from literally anywhere. And I was just like, you know, I was living in New York City, like very much paycheck to paycheck, like rent payment to rent payment. And like, if I needed like a little bit of money, like I'm sure I could have asked my parents, like, hey, can you spot me $250 or something? But like, I didn't come from wealth. I didn't come from money. So this idea of just like, oh, I'm just going to travel internationally to 3 large countries for an entire year, like that just seemed like completely unfathomable to me.
Yeah.
And I know that she like got some money in like the divorce or whatever, but like still, maybe it was just because like I was just like way too into the different things that I needed every day, like the idea of being able to live so small each and every day because you're on a very, very fixed income. I don't know. Yeah. But that was the thing that I had like the most problem with in the entire story. It's just like, how does she have enough money to do all this shit?
That mirrors why I broke up with the Bachelor franchise, because I'm like, I can't watch these very white people just like get to go on lavish dates while like everything crumbles and inflation is so high I can't like have soda when I want it.
Like, yeah, who are all of these like sales executives and dental hygienists that like just get to like leave their lives for however long The Bachelor takes to film? I don't know. I think they're all like aspiring actors and models, comma, and then like whatever they also do.
My favorite is one of them when one of them claims to be a teacher, and I was like, you may have been a teacher, but you're not a teacher now because no principal would risk a parent seeing you on ABC getting drunk in a hot tub. Like,
1,000%.
like that's not how
1,000%.
teacher culture works. We are supposed to. One time we went to a place downtown and they have like a replica of an old schoolhouse and they like handed us the rules that the school marm had to like follow, curfews, like purity rules, all of it. And I was like, they make teachers still follow that in the Midwest. Little known fact. Like, it's posted in all of our classrooms.
Oh, who has the time?
Who has the time? But we're supposed to be talking about your online dates.
Back to me, please.
Back to you. What prompted the idea to not only like delve into online dating, but to like also track your progress as you were doing it?
I mean, I guess I've always been like a project manager at my core, and I love to see like the results. But that actually wasn't the impetus for me starting it. When I started online dating, there weren't as many options as there are today. So it was pre-apps, and like, you know, the Tinder and Bumbles of the swipe left and swipe right. My very first online dating experience came from the website hotornot.com,
Oh shit.
where you would post a picture of yourself and then people could rate whether you were hot or not. And I put a picture up there my senior year of college, and someone actually like messaged me on the site and was like, I think you're cute and I actually live close to you. Like, could I take you out to dinner? And like, of course I did everything wrong on this date and like didn't even like know his name or tell anyone where I was going. Like, that absolutely could have ended up with me in a ditch somewhere outside of Binghamton, New York. But when I got, after college, I moved to New York City and I started using Craigslist personals.
Mm-hmm.
So like I would post a personal saying like, this is about me. Like, if you like what you hear, like send me a message. And like, I would get like 15 or 20 messages from guys, and I would like curate that down to like one or two to go on a date with. The problem that I had is that I could not remember what I had told each of the dates as they like started to happen. Like, did we actually have a phone conversation? Like, have I already told him about my family? Have I already told him what I do for a living? And I felt like I was managing like 8 different pen pal relationships at the same time, because like people would be like, oh, hey, I'm out of town for work, but I'd love to get together when I get back. And it's like, okay, that's great. But like, I was just honestly like struggling being able to keep track with like what each of them had said or like what we had planned. So initially, keeping track was literally just to help me like keep track of like the guys. And like, I definitely was not sleeping with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And like many of them, to be honest, like didn't get past the first date. Like, so, you know, they quickly moved from a like in progress status to like a project closed status. But it wasn't as convenient as it is now, where like you see on Tinder or Bumble, like you see all the people that you're talking to and it's all in one place, and you can very easily just like swipe left and like delete a conversation if like this one's gone cold, like gone. Mm-hmm. This one, like we went on a date, there was no spark, like gone. And you like can keep track of your inbox. With the way that I was like sourcing men from Craigslist, I had some people that I was communicating with over email. I had some people who I was talking with like actual conversations on the phone. Texting was still not like the thing yet. So like maybe some I was texting with. And I just had all of these conversations happening in like 3 or 4 different places. And it was hard to keep up. So that's why I started the spreadsheet. And like I would put their name on the spreadsheet and just some thoughtful details that came out either in their opening to me or in some of our conversations. Like John plays the violin, Dan works at Bank of America, you know, Rory showed up in pajamas on the first date, whatever it is, you know, just something thoughtful to remember them by. And over the course of 13 years, I just kept adding names and thoughtful details to the spreadsheet. And I like ended up like totaling it up and realized that over the course of 13 years, I had gone on 97 first dates.
You should turn it into some sort of coffee table book. Like you should, or like a weekly cartoon, like a webtoon. Uh, I wish I did that when I just met people organically, like an event. Have you ever like really connected with someone because you're at the same concert or something
For
and you
sure.
like add them on Instagram and then you see their post and you're like, how do I know this person? I put people like where it says company on the contact when you're adding a new contact. I'll put like book club. This is Sarah from book club. This is how you know her. And I've started asking people to honestly, when I text them the first time, I send them a contact photo and I go, send me back a contact photo. So there's no reason for me to be confused when we're talking.
Honestly, what you've just described is what happened to my Facebook account and why I decided to deactivate it. Because as an actor, like I have met so many people in like a one night class or a seminar, or we did an off Broadway play together. So you have like this intense friendship for like
Yeah.
3 weeks and then you never see them again. When the pandemic hit, I had so many things in my newsfeed from people that I absolutely did not know.
Yeah.
And the way that Facebook's algorithm changed, like you were seeing like when somebody liked or commented on somebody else's thing, that else person like I was not connected to. So like I was getting like all of this like news and GoFundMe's and like lots of people's like really unfortunate opinions about things. And I was like, there is so much information from people I am 1,000% not friends with.
Yep.
This is not helping me anymore. Like, toodaloo, Facebook. And truly, like, not being able to like keep track of like all of these digital acquaintances, like literally like ruined the whole experience for me. But I very similarly like have been trying to like do a much better job of like when I add people, like if you are strong enough to get added to the contact book on the iPhone, like yes, like putting some notes in there because it's like we cannot trust the brain to remember who Sarah without an H is.
Exactly. And I mean, I am one of those people where you will give me one detail of your job and then I will make up an entire career with about you. And I don't know if it's because I'm a former high ability kid, if it's the undiagnosed, untreated ADHD, but instead of just asking you, hey, what's your job? You'll give me some detail and I'll be like, John's a brain doctor. And then you'll catch me at a party telling people that you're a brain doctor. And you're like, excuse me, what are you doing? I'm a pharmacy rep. Come over here. And I'm like,
actually incorrect. Please correct.
That is actually, Natalie, the most incorrect thing you've ever said. I'm like, Hot or Not, because Hot or Not was the predecessor to Facebook, right? That's how Mark Zuckerberg, is that on the social network how he came up with the Facebook?
I don't know if the website Hot or Not was part of the gestation, but that is kind of the seed of his idea for Facebook, was people being able to rank how good looking people were, like class by class.
Yeah. I didn't know that it had a DM function. Like
yeah, I don't know that I did either.
Until it was happening.
Until it was happening. But yeah, like I just put up a picture that it was like a picture. I cropped like half of a picture of me from like wearing a Halloween costume and like just had a little bit of makeup on, and I thought I looked cute. I was wearing like a bed sheet as a dress or something. I don't know. But that's how it all started. That's how it all got started.
That's how it all got started. In general, would you say that you were a person who really enjoyed online dating? Because I have this very nostalgic viewpoint of how like my grandparents just got to meet at a soda shop, and wouldn't that have been cute too?
Yeah, I think my online dating experience is like framed and colored by the fact that I am a plus size woman. And I think I just assumed that meeting someone organically, like the meeting in a bar or at a concert or kind of like the happenstance meetings, I think I had just written that off and decided that nobody was ever going to choose me because of my body. So I wasn't going to be like a happenstance meeting. Yeah. That the thing that was going to snag a boy for me was going to be my personality. And of course, that was spoon fed to me from everything in the media and whatever. you know. So for me, I think I looked at online dating as an opportunity to present my personality as like the thing.
Hmm.
And when it got to things like match.com and OkCupid, where you can actually like write a profile and like really kind of put out there like exactly what you want to put out there. And I never like hid my body type. Like I
Mm-mm.
put headshots and body shots up there. Like I was absolutely not trying to bait and switch anybody about like what they were buying at the store. But I felt like it gave me the opportunity to like put a full portfolio forward, as
Yeah.
opposed to just the body or the instant attraction kind of thing. Like the instant attraction is the thing that generates that magnetism that brings people together, and then they find out that they're actually super compatible and how great that they met at the soda shop or wherever. Um and it was just kind of that feeling, or like my own like value and belief system about my body, which was 1,000% systemically ingrained in me by America and the
Hmm.
media. But that's kind of how it started for me. I also, to your point about like how your grandparents met, midway into my online dating journey, I read Aziz Ansari's book Modern Romance,
Yep.
where he really unpacked a lot of what people in the like tail end of Gen X through the millennials and elder millennials were experiencing in this kind of like analysis paralysis of the apps, like having so much choice, and you can set your radius to however many miles, and like all of these people that you wouldn't encounter in your daily life, compared to the way that people in our parents and our grandparents generation paired up. Like a lot of times it was always like only one or two trees removed from somebody's family or friends. Like it was very much like a community thing, and like the amount of square miles between you was
Yeah.
far fewer. But my husband and I are a really perfect example of how the modern romance structure worked. He and I lived in different towns, we went to different high schools, we really didn't have any friends in common, we were not kind of running in the same circles or places. And without Bumble as our introduction engine, we probably would not have met. But we are extremely well suited, and I'm delighted that we did meet. So it's kind of for me, that book really kind of opened my eyes to what meeting organically really meant, and like how often that was actually happening for people in
Right.
our generation. Especially at that time, I was living in a major metropolitan city like New York City. I think people in places like New York City, LA, Chicago, Atlanta probably have a much different experience with online dating versus people who live where I live now, like Buffalo, or kind of like that, the outer ring, like third ring cities, where the dating pool is smaller to begin with, and you don't have people who are aspiring to be something that they're not, and therefore are constantly putting false foot forward. um so yeah, I think the my own belief system in myself, and like that whole thing, and like thinking that I wanted to go outside of kind of the normal, quote unquote normal, like organic meeting pool, that kind of shifted and shaped how I chose to attack online dating.
Yeah. I remember building my first dating profile, and I think not my first dating profile, because my first dating profile was match.com, and I think I built it right before they also instituted a swiping function, because it used to just be you would get an email of people and they'd be like, "Do you like these people?" But I remember when I set up my Bumble and it was like for the swiping purposes, and I was like, "You have to include what I called like honest pictures of your body, because if you show up to a restaurant, you're going to be able to like see it on that dude's face if you show up and he then realizes that you are plus size." And that's how guys like feel tricked, and they get like volatile if they feel tricked or whatever, and they'll be rude to you and you'll cry at a Chili's, and no one wants to cry at Chili's.
No, it's true.
um so I remember very much feeling like there was a pressure to like make sure that my body was like shown at all angles, so I again couldn't be accused of like catfishing you. And which is odd because in high school, I was a huge catfisher. Like we've talked about how like I was born into the generation of AOL chat rooms and all the fun that I had in there. And when I never sent guys on AIM or AOL like fake pictures, and I never sent them pictures of myself. But when I would describe myself, I would use coded language where you might assume that I was plus size, but I was not going to come out and tell you that I was plus size because then I assumed that you would stop talking to me.
Are you talking about my favorite word, curvy?
Yeah, curvy, voluptuous, if I could figure out how to spell it that day. I think I have an odd relationship with my breasts to where like I became very laissez-faire about my breasts and like would use them as a baiting material. So I would always like hit home that it's like, well, don't worry, like I got tits to die for or something. And like just like really focus on that. And then it'd be like, and just think about the women who have tits to die for. Most women who have tits that are this size, it's because they are plus size. Like they also have the body that matches it.
Right.
So yeah, and I remember there being like, there's like such a pressure to like also come off as like flirty and carefree about who you are as a person when I feel like you're on the female side of dating apps. And when I'm swiping on men's profiles, I feel like sometimes there's just like this, like, I'm going to tell you all of the things I don't want, all of the things that I do want, and all of the ways that I've been like fucked around before, and you better not do that. I feel like there's such a difference between how men and women build their dating profiles.
I have a couple of friends who are still actively dating, and I am always flabbergasted by the amount of men who put things that women must do in their profiles, like must be fit and attractive and take care of herself, like must know how to have a good time, must know blah 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 blah. And it's like, where do you get off, buddy?
The audacity.
Giving the person that you haven't even met yet a list of requirements. Like, yes, everybody has taste and preferences, like 1,000%. But like when it gets down to like actually naming activities, like the woman that I'm with must go to the gym 3 days a week. You know what? Go fuck yourself.
Go fuck
like
yourself.
It's just outrageous that they feel entitled to state that. You know, you can certainly feel that way, and you can certainly like have that as a preference, but like to just openly state that, like, hey, if you match like 80 to 90% of my criteria, but you don't go to the gym 3 days a week, like just keep walking. And it's like, oh Lord, just where do they get that mediocre white male audacity?
I don't know if it was like my naivety that then just carried on into my adulthood, but I assumed when building my profile, I was like, it almost became like, well, the profile is to sell myself, not to actually tell you what I want, because I'm also actively swiping. So I can do all of that work myself. Why would I talk about the other person? Like the mystery person.
Why can't it just be like, why can't you just put up your shingle? Like,
yeah,
this is who I am. Like, this is what I do. Like, why does it have to be about the other person's like necessities and traits?
Yeah.
Like, actually, like, I'm here shopping for you, bud. So instead of spending all your characters telling me what I have to do in my life, why don't you tell me why you don't suck?
Yeah. So that's like one of my huge red flags. And it happens when I'm swiping on women too, where it's like, if I can instantly tell like what a former partner did that pissed you off repeatedly, or really just like knocked you to the floor or anything, and I can tell it just by reading your dating profile, then I'm like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and walk away from all of this that you haven't taken care of on your own. Because I love the like, you better not like video games. Okay. I guess someone decided.
Someone who you dated played what you determined to be too many video games.
Yep. And
now you feel hurt by that.
Right. And you're still harping on it. And now no one can play video games. Were there any, when you were doing online dating, did you like craft your immediate list of like, this is a red flag and no thank you?
Um, I'm very much turned off by poor spelling and poor grammar,
Yep.
especially on the apps now like Bumble and Tinder. Like you only have like 300 characters or something for each one of the sections. It's not hard to just like put a good foot forward.
Mm-hmm.
And like that to me was just like if you don't care enough to like spell things right, then I definitely don't care enough to swipe. Um I I don't know, like whenever someone was like the work hard, play hard mentality, like to me that's just like so not what my life is about. Um I kind of tried to keep an eye out for the people that were like the consultants that were like technically had an apartment in New York City but spent Monday through Friday like literally somewhere else working at a client site.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've got a sweet apartment in Turtle Bay, but Monday through Friday they're definitely in Lexington, Kentucky or Columbus, Ohio or somewhere else that's not where you are. No offense to Lexington or Columbus, I'm sure they're lovely, but that's not where I was living and I didn't want to date someone in those cities. So in New York, there was a lot of that because a lot of the huge consulting firms were there. So I was trying to sniff out the people who weren't actually like around. I don't know if there's anything else like huge red flags. I just like, I was just looking for people that seem to have posted like relatively like recent, honest, true pictures. People who could write some cohesive thoughts in their profile and roughly were in the age bracket I was looking for, which at that point was like 28 to 40. Like it was a pretty wide swath. So
yeah. Besides the laundry list of rules that I have to agree to just to go on to coffee with you, I also don't appreciate if we're messaging and the whole point of messaging is to want to meet in person, like just the like no effort to ask a question, answer a question.
this to me, this is the epidemic of male female online dating. I certainly cannot speak to what's happening in the same sex communities, but for all of my friends who are still online dating, and it was certainly my experience as well, the lack of effort on the part of men in the transaction prior to the date. So that would be communication either via the messaging app itself or text messaging or phone calls or whatever, where like you would ask a thoughtful question to like actually get some sort of conversation going. And they would be like, yeah, or no, or simple answer, and then nothing. No follow-up question, no open-ended questions for you. No, like, hey, so it seems like we're connecting. Do you want to go for coffee or something? And this was something else that I picked up from Aziz's book was I stopped having like really, really thoughtful, meaningful, and deep conversations via phone, text, or the messenger features on the app because I realized I was just wasting my time with a lot of guys who were using Bumble and Tinder like solitaire, like the same way that you would play solitaire or Angry Birds on your phone. They're just swiping, 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 and they actually have no intention of meeting up with anyone, whether they're single or not, who knows. So I moved immediately from like, oh, we matched, like, hey, great to meet you. Did you want to get a drink this Friday? Are you available for dinner on Thursday? How do you feel about meeting up on Saturday? Like, I would just jump right to it. And the guys that were actually interested in dating and meeting someone responded really well to that. And we're just like, yes, Thursday sounds great. And I would usually, if they would say that, I would say like, hey, here are two of my favorite places. Why don't you pick? And I always picked places that I was very familiar with. I knew the parking situation and like would feel comfortable like if I had to exit because I was feeling uncomfortable on the date. Like I felt like these locations like set me up for success. And like the guys again that were like actually interested in meeting like responded really well to that. I would usually give like a bar option where I knew that there was seating or a restaurant option that was like pretty casual.
Yeah.
And most of the guys picked the bar option, which was totally fine. Like, drink is a little bit less commitment than like sitting for a meal with someone who you're absolutely not enjoying their company. And that's how I knew my husband might be different because he picked dinner. And I was like, oh, cute little guy hasn't been ruined by online dating yet. And he wants to sit down and have dinner. That's charming. But yeah, I was really not surprised at the number of guys when I started moving to that kind of like using the apps only as the introduction engine, not using them as a conversation engine, jumping right to like trying to get together, like that weeded out 50 to 70% of my matches immediately, which showed me how many people were not using the apps to actually meet people.
Right, because I also remember I would have like weeks long conversations with people. I'd be like, oh my gosh, we're connecting. You're funny, this, that, and we have so much in common. And then you sit in front of them at a restaurant that you've picked or a bar, and you're like, did you Google your answers to my questions? Like, is that what you did?
100%. You spend these 3 weeks, like, you know, working up all of these conversations and like you're really like feeling that flutter, like, ooh, I think I found one. And then in front of you, they're an actual like just lump of wet fish.
Yeah.
Or you spend the 3 weeks having these great conversations and they're witty and they're funny and you're excited. And then they disappear. And like the digital ghost is like gone. And it's like, I've spent all of this time getting to know you, letting you get to know me. I've shared a lot of information. Where did you fucking go?
Yeah.
And that was so frustrating to like put in that energy and effort, have it to not even materialize as a date. Like I didn't even get to see if we were physically compatible, if there was a spark, any of these things. That was taken completely out of the equation because you just fucking disappeared. And I was just so sick of that. I was just so sick of putting in the effort to be funny and charming and interesting, like in every conversation, only to have it turn into a complete non-connection on the date, which like no harm, no foul. Like we're just not a connection, but like I really would have liked to known that 3 weeks ago. Or, you know, spending 3-4 weeks talking to someone and then just having them like literally disappear into thin air.
Yeah. One of the other patterns that I run into when I go on dates with men that I've had online connections with is, and I've attributed it to my size, but I've also attributed it to my personality is really big and it takes up a lot of space in the room. And I don't know if that always comes across in text message, but I'll go on dates. We'll spend hours talking because you're enthralled with me and I love nothing more than an audience. And then at the end of it, I get so you were really fun. I'd love to do all of the things that you're doing, especially with you, but I absolutely don't want to date you. And you're like, well, what the fuck? How am I perfect, but not perfect to date?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes, and this could be like guys or any significant other, like when you're just on a different wavelength from like an energy standpoint, and that could be an extrovert introvert thing, that could be like, you know, being bold and rambunctious versus being like quiet and reserved. Like I had a guy once, like we went on a couple of dates actually, and then when I reached back out to be like, hey, did you want to like go on another date, he told me that I was intimidating.
Oh god.
And like, I mean, honestly can't even think of like what would have happened that would make him feel that way. But you know, I feel similarly. Like I have a big kind of gregarious personality. I'm definitely the kind of person that like likes to be energetic, like in conversations, and like wants to participate in things and enjoys being an instigator or a creator. Like I'm coming up with ideas for dates. Like I'm happy to like plan things. Like I'm the one in the group, you know, text who's, you know, booking the beach house for the 7 girlfriends who are going on a vacation. Like I'm definitely that person. And like, I know that and I own that. But like to have someone be like, I don't think I want to date you anymore because I find you intimidating. Like I'm not like Sylvester Stallone.
Right. I don't
I'm
know
not
where to
like
go with that.
Steven Seagal. Like what about this is intimidating? I don't know.
I once had a partner who I dated for a while. This was how he broke it down for me when we were breaking up. He said, it's hard to feel special in your life when you bring that much fun and exuberant energy to everyone and everything that you do. And I'm like, oh, because in my mind, the opposite of that sentence was I expected us to go out and you would just kind of like stand there silently while I got to do the fun thing. And then at home, you'd be a freak in the sheets, but a lady in the streets. And I was like, huh. And he's like, yeah, I mean, it's just like really hard to feel special when you're making everyone feel special. And I'm like, I wasn't doing that on purpose. And I don't know how to turn that off. So
It's like when you say the reverse to them. So like, let me just give this back to you. What you're actually looking for is this. Like, do they not see that that's ridiculous
and
like,
misogynistic. And
1,000%?
you wouldn't ask, like, no one would ask Aziz Ansari to not be funny at a party. Like, he's funny. We know it.
Yeah, that's kind of like that's like the kept woman mentality,
Yeah.
right? Like, don't speak unless you're spoken to. I'd prefer it if you didn't like talk to everybody at the party, but you would actually just like stay by my side and let me introduce you to people. Like, that's just, I mean,
Yeah.
we're moving into Handmaid's Tale territory there.
I have found that my personality, and the way that I socialize and the ease that I socialize in any new situation, and it's not like, I don't know how to talk about this without it seeming like I blame myself for it, but what it ends up doing is it ends up like highlighting the fragileness of your security in the group. Because if I'm having an easy time, well, that means that you're having a harder time.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and why is that your responsibility?
Also that.
That could be a whole other episode of
Listen,
men who need a keeper.
Yeah, men who need a keeper. And I think when you end up being a loving, caring, exuberant person, someone goes, oh, you will be my mommy and you will teach me how to make friends. And I'm like, fool, I don't have time to teach you how to make friends because I have friends. And they're like, oh.
Yeah, 1,000%.
1,000%. While you were tracking people, did you notice like any like strong patterns with the men that you were going out with where you were like, huh, this is a way that men really do think it's appropriate to date people? Or did you notice, like, were you able to pinpoint the exact moment where, like, because I think that there was an exact shift when dating became like, oh, people go on Match.com because meeting people is hard. And then like dating apps almost becoming the Amazon of dating, where it's like literally you could have it all and probably in 2 days shipping.
Yeah, I don't know that I noticed any specific patterns or like a real shift, but I will say I guess the majority of my dates were just like, on a 0 to 5 scale, like 3 satisfactory,
Yeah.
like nothing bad happened on the majority of my dates. Out of all 97, I don't really have that many horror stories. They were all just generic.
Yeah.
And like, I think people that I wouldn't have come across, in my regular day-to-day life. They weren't people that I had friends in common with. They weren't people that, I knew from, quote unquote back home or from college. They were just like a person in the universe that I happened to like find through algorithmic or whatever properties. And like we sat across from each other and shared a drink or a meal for anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And most of them ended right there.
Yeah.
So of the 97 guys, I think I went on probably 10 second dates, 9 or 10 second dates.
Mm-hmm.
And of the 9 or 10, I actually dated like 3 or 4 people where like we actually, were communicating off of the platform that we had started talking on. We were like scheduling and meeting each other after work or whatever. But I never actually got to having the conversation about being in a committed monogamous relationship with anyone except my husband. So of the 97, that filtered down to 10 second dates.
Yep.
Like 5 people that I dated more than twice, and 1 person who I agreed to be in a monogamous committed relationship with, who then I eventually married. Like that was my sales funnel. Like
that was your funnel.
That's what it took to happen. But I don't know that there was any specific patterns that emerged. For me, my turning point was not talking to people before the date. Yeah. Like that was really my big turning point in saying, I'm not going to waste the energy in getting to know people until I know, are you interested? Am I interested? Like circle yes or no for both of us. And now you can ask me how many siblings I have. And now you can tell me everything that you do for work. And now I will tell you about my career or whatever. But I didn't want to have any of those conversations before meeting in person because it was just exhausting. And I honestly could not go through like with my thumbs, like typing those like stories and stuff one more time.
Right. I used to keep notes where I could copy and paste my answers to certain questions. I'd be like, well, there it is. Like it got to the point where I was getting lazy about it. But I did notice one phenomenon, not with the men that I was dating, but the outside people who knew that I was dating. The closer I got to 30 and the more I would go, I'm not going to see him again. He was boring. The more I got, should you maybe give it another shot? Because, like, first dates are hard and, like, you don't know. It sounded like he had a job. I'm like...
The barrier to entry is just getting lower and lower and lower. Sounded like he had a pulse.
Right. It sounded like he paid for your coffee. And it really floors me because I wonder if, like, anyone's mother is telling their son, like, hey... maybe she was just nervous. Maybe, like, you could give it another shot. But I feel like on the other side of that dating app, there's this whole world of women that when they go on these mediocre dates, they almost get told, like, how dare you find your date mediocre? Someone wanted to date you. I don't know if it just happens to me because I was unfortunate looking in high school, but it happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a power dynamic at play, right? So if at any time you're on these dating apps and you are anything other than what is described as conventionally attractive by the media, like your default position should be grateful. Like grateful that anyone matched with you, grateful that anyone was willing to talk to you. And that just fucking blows as a like social dynamic and a hierarchical structure. But what I've always found interesting, and most of the sites and apps confirm this, is that there are far more men on online dating sites than there are women. And, you know, that's how Match.com got like caught like putting up like fake profiles of both men and women to keep users engaged, because there was such an imbalance of number of users like looking for, you know, the particular gender that they were attracted to. But I always find that fascinating that like women seem to be in the marketplace, like being like, it's almost like it's our responsibility to like go out there and like put ourselves out there and like be available on these apps. And like, you know, Bumble has it like integrated, right? Like the women have to strike up the conversation. I don't know if that's still the case, but yeah, when I was using Bumble, like if the match was made, the women had to speak first, you know, and that was ostensibly so that the men were not starting with a dick pic. Right. So it gave the woman some agency that she has to start the conversation and it won't be just a picture of a penis to start. But like that continually puts the onus on women, which I think is both cultural and systemic, that like we're the ones that we have to show up on the app. We have to be present. We have to start the conversation. We have to drive the conversation. We have to plan the date. And the assumption is that the men are just there in droves, like waiting for us. It reminds me of like, you know, they would like, you know, they like brought boatloads of women over like after the first pilgrims came because there were guys here and no women. And they're like, we need wives, get the boats, you know? And it's kind of that same mentality that like, okay, so there's, you know, maybe it's a 60-40 ratio. The app is 60% men, 40% women. So the women have to work all that much harder to meet the expectations of all of these men who are joining the apps in droves. But from what my anecdotal evidence, that I speak with, my male friends, whether they're gay or straight, and when I share with other, partnered people who didn't have to be a part of that, when I or my friends shared some of our experiences, and whether they were just horror stories or numbers, the men in our lives who we love as our friends are always horrified to
Mm-hmm.
hear like what we've had to go through, like what we've had to endure, like what men have done out there in the wild, or not done, as the case might be, like not asking questions, not furthering things along, not making suggestions, all of those things. And I'm like, are we just left with like the lesser thens? Like, are all of the organic meetings happening with the great guys that we've all been spoon fed from romantic comedies, and actually all the guys on apps are just the leftovers? Like, I don't think that's the case. I met my husband on the app. He's definitely not a leftover. But why is the power dynamic so inherently skewed in what seems to be in favor of men? And is it
Yeah.
just from the social and societal conditioning of women to be like the maker of things? Like that responsibility falls on us to drive the things? Or is it something else, and is it more insidious than that? And I'm sure, Bumble and Tinder have all of the data to tell us that it's probably a lot more insidious than that. But I don't know.
I think I'm following the creator of Bumble. I don't think she has anything to do with Bumble anymore, but I know that I'm following her on Instagram. And tolerators, let's flood her DMs with so many requests to be on the show and just talk about it. Because what you're talking about is something that I also see that just seamlessly happens in my relationships too. I, in fact, have an entire note on my docs or in my phone or something, and it's called heavy lifting. And I track instances where I know that emotionally and mentally, I was naturally made to believe that I had to do the majority of the work. And one day I will turn it into an hour-long special of comedy because it's just ridiculous. And I think it starts at the very, oh, I had a starting point for it and then I got off track. But it just, it's one of those things where I don't know if it's because we used to be sold to men to be their wives because of dowries and things like that, but it's like you have to be the catching thing. And because we're constantly told that like men only care about looks and they only care about getting laid and they don't want to invest with you, you have to do the work so that they like your personality, so they care about how you treat your family. Like you have to be constantly like throwing that in their face, or else they'll never look at you more than a meat sack. It does a disservice to them. I would love to ask men, like, how do you like how like media treats you guys while you're dating in high school? Like, do you like being Danny Zuko's? Is that fun for you?
I think part of the problem is they're not even thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like, because they're not even getting wrapped up in it. I think women have so many different societal roles that we are being conditioned for since birth, but then we're also like being told to like fight against it. And it's like the
Mm-hmm.
Nike commercials with, Serena and Venus Williams telling us that we're all powerful and we can all, run a 2-minute mile or something. I don't know. Like we have to be all of these things. Like you
Yeah.
have to be like happy Susie homemaker and all of these like emotional and mental labor things, but also you have to be like really powerful and strong, and you have to be like a boss bitch without being bossy or bitchy. And you have to like tamp things down so you're not hurting people's feelings, but you have to be ambitious because otherwise then you're just boring. And like all of these different things that are just like coming at our face. And then we're all left like in our little girl circles, like analyzing messages that we get from guys that we're dating and trying to decide, should I respond now or do I wait? Because like we're like supposed to be playing a game, and then
Right.
like you're referring back to the script from he's just not that into you, and like wondering if like you're doing it like right according to like these romantic comedy rules that we were all fed like in our early like formative years. And it's just, I feel like we do all of these things and I feel like men do not. And
Yeah.
it's not that it doesn't occur to them, it's just that no one expects them to do that.
Right.
Like no one expects the men to be sitting around a table analyzing a conversation, trying to figure out if a guy is into you or not, or if you should be emotional and honest yet or not, or you don't want to scare them off yet and you don't want to seem too intense and all of those things. Like, I just don't think that guys are sitting around having those kind of like Monday morning quarterbacking conversations about online dating or messaging or dating in general. And women are doing all of this additional like emotional and mental labor to try and make things happen.
Right.
And I don't know why that all became our responsibility when the thing that we were like conditioned from in an early age was like the Disney princess and the chivalry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the prince is actually supposed to show up and like knock on the door. So like, why are we tying ourselves up in knots trying to decide whether or not we should send the prince another message? You know, how did it get so skewed? And how did we get so far away from some sort of equal balance of power?
Yeah, we just did Grease on another show that I'm producing with my creative partner Jules Washington called Still Comfy, and we just did it on Grease. And I was like, you know, Sandy always gets dogged because she's the one who quote unquote changed herself to fit what Danny wanted. I go, but Danny started it. I go, for the majority of the movie, Danny is running track, giving up smoking, trying to pretend like he can give a shit about her brain or whatever, trying to like keep his friends at a distance from her. And Jules made the point, she was like, I actually looked into it, and before Grease, it was always men in the movie who changed themselves according and made themselves softer for women. So Sandy was revolutionary because she made a change herself for her relationship, whether or not it's good. I was like, maybe Sandy just thought I can do it better. Like, I see you trying and I see you failing. I bet you I can stick this landing.
I mean, if putting on like a leather bustier and tight pants and heels like constitutes like real change, like, amen.
Yeah.
Like, it's just he was attracted to her from the get-go, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then it was his friends. Like, he was embarrassed that he was like
Yeah.
attracted to like the nerdy girl in the sweater. But like, she's still the same person. Like, okay, great. She had a, you know, dramatic real home makeover. Great. Good job. But like, just this idea that we're like a different person around our friends,
Yeah.
right? I think that's one thing that's really rooted in the Grease narrative is like, when he's away for the summer, like, he gets to be this person and that's who he really is. But then when he's Danny Zuko, like with all the guys and, you know, the pink ladies are flitting around, then he has to be something else. And I think a lot of us felt that way in high school. I felt like we felt like we were part of, you know, some kind of clique and had to like match that clique. But when we were at summer camp without anyone from high school, we got to be a completely different person in a different clique. That again could be a whole nother episode of like, you know, age 16 to 18, like personas.
Listen, with the way that Congress is going, the podcast will never be irrelevant. So
100%. Yes, I agree with that.
But it boggles my mind because while I was trained to be so assertive in like convincing men that I was the trophy that they wanted to claim at the end of the rat race, the flip side of that was, and then once you grabbed me, I do a complete 180 and I'm so passive because it's like, I don't know, whatever you want. What do you need today? Like, what's going to trigger your fragility today? Like, how do we make sure that we make you feel strong, but also cuddly and well-fed? And did you nap? Like, it just becomes, and then my default, because I get frustrated being the person who's doing the heavy lifting, is to do none of it, which means, like, if we're going to Chili's, we're going to Chili's. If we're watching a movie I hate, we're watching a movie I hate, because now I have decision fatigue.
Yeah, I think for me, like, I have always been more comfortable being like the organizer and the person like bringing the things to the table. And I think that's just been my personality from day one. Like, I definitely know that some of my friends like went home from my house like crying to their parents circa age like 6 or 7 because I was like, we're playing Barbies today. And like, that was the mission at hand, you know? But I think, my husband and I have a very modern relationship. I work, he doesn't. I happen to make enough money at my job. Buffalo has a pretty low, decent cost of living. So we've just created this kind of like reverse structure of like the Donna Reed, Leave It to Beaver 1950s stuff. So I work all day and he is what we refer to as the domestic engineer. So he's doing the laundry and loading the dishwasher and scooping the kitty litter boxes and all of that kind of stuff. And that works for us, but it's a constant conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's a lot of checking in on each other on what the other person needs. And it shouldn't be revolutionary that that's how our relationship works. It shouldn't be like shocking to someone that that's how it works, that we have like constant resetting of expectations and are frequently like asking and checking in on what each other needs. Like that's actually just being like a nice human being in this world. And it's really sad that so many people grew up with expectations of relationships that don't include being able to recalibrate as people
Mm-hmm.
have their needs change,
Well, and I think somewhere along the way, we forgot to actually like get to know the people that we were marrying. So it was like, I did it. I went to college. Some other dude was doing some other major. I married him. I had children with him. And then like my kids turned 15. They're almost out of the house. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, what do you mean your favorite color is purple? Like, you just like, you're so focused on, again, the rat race of dating that you forget that there's a whole other person on the other side of your marriage.
Yeah, that's totally true.
And I tell people all the time, when it comes to whether or not I'll get married, I'm like, here's the thing that scares me about marriage that you actually solved. I was like, I can go through 7 different iterations of myself within a calendar year. So that person is going to have to relearn me 7 times a year. And that takes a lot of communicating that I don't think has been modeled for a lot of us about like, what do you do when your partner comes home and is like, I don't want to be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company anymore. I want to paint in the woods. Like, what do you do?
Yeah, I think it takes a lot. And I think also like we're learning that, the definition of success that I
Mm-hmm.
think we were fed, like you must go to college, you must get a job, you must be constantly promoted and have your salary increase by 5.7% every year or whatever. Like all of these things, I think the pandemic really helped
Yeah.
people realize that like there are things more important than climbing the corporate ladder. And it showed a lot of people that like all of the speak of companies telling you how much they care about you and value you like went right out the window the moment they installed like mouse tracking software to make sure that you were moving your mouse during the 8 hours that you're being
Right.
compensated for work. And I think people started to realize like what was actually really important to them. And it came back to family and it came back to time and it came back to space and togetherness and all of that stuff. I hope that, people in our generation and the generations that follow us and the generations that came before us, like, I hope they continue some of these things now that the world has returned to some sort of semblance of normal, even though the disease rages on and still kills a ton of people every day. I hope that people remember, the change of heart that they had, in some of those early days when they got to spend a lot more time with their family versus, commuting back and forth and all of that stuff. But that type of behavior informs our relationships, our
Mm-hmm.
modern, healthy romantic relationships. And, I think we as a generation can certainly model, what healthy relationships look like to, our children's generation and things like that. But it has to be systemic change too,
Yeah.
right? So, at the beginning of the pandemic, we saw how many more women left the workforce after making, great strides, still being paid, what is it, 73 cents on the dollar with the wage gap, still having, constantly coming into like TikTok and Instagram reel feeds. I'm seeing people finding out that they're being paid less than their male counterparts for the
Mm-hmm.
same job. And then being told that human resources can't just like adjust their salary and fix it, that there has to be like some sort of time period and review period. And like, how long do you have to sit and be compensated less than the person sitting next to you? Like how long, like what's the waiting period for that, right?
Right.
And how much workplace gain that women lost in the pandemic because it was just assumed that like they would immediately return to some sort of primary caregiver role, or how many women shared stories that were written about in articles about how like their husband just assumed that like his Zoom meetings would take precedence and he would get the spare bedroom for his office and the wife would be like happy using the dining room table and stuff. And these are people who are in their 30s and their 40s. Like these aren't baby boomers. These aren't people who are supposedly the ones who hold these outdated beliefs. Like these are your friends from college.
Yeah.
Your friends from college are assuming that their wife is going to take care of the kids, is assuming that they can have the office, is assuming that their meetings took precedence. So, even as we model the behavior, like it's still happening and it's still insidious in people in our age group. So, until we see some kind of like true equality across the board, whether that is like actual legislation that says you literally cannot pay a woman less and everyone has to frickin' fix that in 5 seconds or less, until we see, women's positions being valued, until we see some friggin' actual like maternal care and like postpartum care and like actual some time, like until that happens, like I think we will continue to see this power dynamic in relationships and in dating where women have to do more.
Yeah. I tell a lot of my friends when they tell me stories of their marriages, whether or not they should, I always end it with, and I don't know how you stomach it because I refuse to be undervalued in the home that I lay my head to rest in. Like, I don't want to live in a place that I'm undervalued. I'm already undervalued in my country, in my office, at the grocery store. I'm not believed at the doctor. I go, so why would I also come home and know that I'm going to be undervalued?
Yeah.
And why is it the norm?
It's the one place that you should have equality.
Yeah. It's the one place where and again, naivety. No one should have gone into the pandemic and had to have looked at their partner and gone, oh, that's how you see me. And that be a complete wipe out to you. And again, that's systematic. Now I can't say the word. But that happens too because we're too busy to actually know how our partners view us because we're not spending time with them. So all of a sudden you've locked me in a home with a person I've been married to for 12 years and you're sitting there one day going, huh, that's how you see me. And it's the same way that your doctor that didn't listen to you, or your boss who talked over you at a meeting, or your dad who never took the time to get to know you as a human also valued you, and you're wiped by it.
Yep, and I think it took a lot of people by surprise.
And I get really sad about it. But I also refuse to not go, well, that's okay. People go through the ups and downs. I always say, no, that means that you're not valued in your home. That is a problem.
Totally agree.
So on the podcast, we have these two traditions. We kind of sum up our greatest lesson from either the conversation or, in this case, online dating. And then we take all of that big lesson that we've learned and want to impart on other people, and we manifest a little positivity for the people who are either struggling with this or honestly didn't know that online dating was a struggle for women or anything like that. So in your 97 first dates and this wonderful husband that you have because of it, what was your biggest lesson or takeaway?
I think my biggest lesson was, at the end of the day, you can't win the game if you're not in the game. And, knowing that these are the dominant ways to meet people, I would say my positivity manifestation is to put yourself out there. And you may need to take breaks. I definitely did not date steadily like through the 13 years. There were definitely some 6 months breaks, 1 year breaks, whatever. If you get fatigued, like certainly take a break. But it can happen. I am 100% proof positive that it can happen. There are people out there on the apps who are actually looking for partnerships and are looking to find a person that they can build a life and a home with. And I would say you have to be in it to win it. And then I would also just encourage people to like actually be themselves and like don't put forward on the apps what you think people want or what you think the people that you're looking for, the age group, the gender, whatever, what you think they're going to swipe on. Don't start it on a falsehood. Like actually just be yourself. Have a friend take some pictures of you today. Put those up there. Not your retouched acting headshot that you took your senior year of college. Like put you and yourself out there and also just believe that you're enough. You are enough for someone out there. There is someone in the wide, wide sea. There is a fishy for you. And they won't find you if you are not being you. So my advice is to put yourself out there. Got to be in it to win it. And actually put yourself out there. Not some idealized version. Don't wait until you've hit a weight loss goal to put yourself on online dating. Don't set some, strange barometer for when it's okay to do it. You are enough. Put yourself out there.
I think my biggest lesson is that there's because this was the hurdle that I had to take a break from online dating and get over. There's no scorecard. So if you go on a bunch of mediocre dates, that's okay. And it's also not a reflection on me being a mediocre date or a bad date or anything like that if I'm not clicking with the people that I also just happen to be meeting. You meet several people a day. You can just release that pressure that swiping on an app puts on things from time to time.
Yeah, you absolutely don't need to bring high stakes into it,
yeah.
Right? I would actually say just assume it's not going to work out.
Right.
And not that it's going to fail in a spectacular fashion, but just assume that the majority of people that you connect with are going to be a human being who ultimately you do not want to slide into. And then, one isn't.
Yeah.
There's a audio going around on Instagram right now, that's my clownfish. Yeah. And it's women or men showing their partner wearing a really strange poncho or taking on a very strange home project or whatever. There's one weird clownfish for you out there. But I think Dan Savage, who does the Savage Love Cast and writes his column for The Stranger in Seattle, his phrase, which I have kind of kept in my mind all the time, is every relationship fails until one doesn't. Yeah. So the numbers are with you that the majority of dates you go on will be bad and just not terrible or spectacular fashion, but just not good, not someone good. You want to see again, not someone you had a connection with, not someone you were attracted to, not someone who you had a spark with. The majority will be like that. So when you set your sights on knowing that that's the case and manage your expectations, then when someone comes along who surprises you, then it'll be that much sweeter and you'll recognize it that much more that it stands out from the crowd.
And then I think my manifestation would go along those lines too, where it's once you release the pressure of it all, that then frees you up. And I hope that everyone is being discerning about the people that they're partnering with, going on dates with, multiple dates with, because I don't want anyone else to be knocked to their knees when 5 years into a marriage, they understand how undervalued they are in that relationship. And you were just a tick on a list of things to complete.
Yeah, I would say remember that you're trying them on too. It's not just them trying you on and trying to find a partner. It's also you. You have agency in this. You have the ability to say, actually, while you are very attractive and I like you and we had a good time, this actually doesn't work for me. And you have the power and agency to do that.
And I hope that our culture starts to reflect that when it comes to the media and the literature and honestly just the messages as older women, as parents, as whatever we give to young people who are entering relationships is. And it's just because you're the girl in the relationship doesn't mean that you have to be the one putting the pony and dog show on so that they know that they want you. They should just want you.
Agree.
Yeah. Go ahead and tell the tolerators. Thank you so much, Maria, for having this conversation. It was really fun. Go ahead and tell them where they can connect with you.
Sure. So you can find me on all the socials at Maria Pendo, MariaPendo. My voice acting website is voicebymaria.com. If you want to know if I am audio stalking you, I probably am, because I have lots of commercials on TV and radio and Pandora and Spotify. So you can see some of the stuff that I've worked on recently on my website. And yeah, happy to connect on social media.
Yeah, and tolerators, you know the deal. There's a link in the show notes and in our Instagram bio at Men I've Tolerated Pod. That's where you can join us on Patreon. So maybe one day you get to be my pen pal. And it's where you can see all of the t-shirts that I manically make while I'm watching Critical Role or Dimension 20. So we've got merch. It finally happened. And remember, tolerators, you don't have to smile through anything you're tolerating, including being made to feel like if one bad date was really bad, but you haven't gotten married yet and you're approaching 30, you should give that guy 3 more times to disappoint you. Smiles are for joy. Hi, everyone. Thank you for checking out this week's episode. I wanted to jump on and offer a small reminder of the ways that you can connect with us. The first way is our socials. So we are Men I've Tolerated Pod on Instagram and Natalie K124 on TikTok, my personal Instagram. And you can find us on YouTube and Pinterest under To All the Men I've Tolerated Before. The second way is by becoming a Patreon member. We are well on our way to our 25 member Patreon, where we are going to unlock bonus perks to being a patron member. Shout out to all of our existing patrons. As an independently ran and funded podcast, your support means everything. Another way that you can connect with us is making sure to subscribe and leave comments wherever you can so we can start reading reviews on each podcast episode. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure to check out the merch store, and we will see you next week.